Contemplate the profound interplay between tension, uncertainty, and the collective actions of humanity. The events of October 1983 in Grenada serve as a stark reminder of the unpredictable forces shaping our existence. In exploring the mountainous terrain of tension and the restless movement of the masses, we are compelled to confront fundamental questions of power, agency, and the resilience of the human spirit during trying times. It is a journey that challenges our perceptions and illuminates the intricate dance between fate and free will.
And on Bishop's return to Grenada from an East European trip in October, he was quickly placed under house arrest by supporters of Bernard Coard on the Central Committee of the NJM.
I'm Sherwood McCaskey, thanks for joining us. The resilience of the Grenadian people has been borne out in every episode of this series. This week, the revolution is now in its final days. Grenada is experiencing what is arguably one of the more destabilizing moments in its history. The preceding events are set to change the course of this island's history forever. We set the scene with an extract of a news item that provides an account of the events of October the 19th, 1983, what is known as the Bloody Wednesday. This sets the stage for a sequence of tense moments that demonstrate the resilience of the Grenadian people and propel the island towards an irreversible turning point, the point of no return.
Bishop's death had been the culmination of months of intense ideological struggle between opposing factions in the NJM, contesting the direction in which the party should proceed. Bishop, a pragmatic socialist, seemed to be having second thoughts about his party's socialist experiment.
October of 1983, or even before that, you're hearing rumblings and rumors about the infighting and the unrest within the PRG again. I was also surprised.
When the unraveling of the revolution started, I think we saw all the news things coming out from Grenada, just seeing all of that and recognizing that it doesn't look good because it was really taking a turn for the worse.
Maurice Bishop was put under relentless pressure to sign a power-sharing agreement which would have given de facto control to Coard and his supporters. Bishop refused, and in so doing, signed his own death warrant.
Now remember, Bernard Coard had resigned his position from the party. So he was the Minister of Finance in government, but he was not the strategist in the party. The Central Committee met and they wanted to invite back Bernard Coard because the revolution was falling apart. They believed that the only person that could help hold it together was Bernard Coard. In order for Bernard Coard to come back, they recommended that there should be joint leadership. Maurice Bishop accepted that there should be joint leadership. But when he went over to Hungary and he passed through Cuba, which was not part of his itinerary to come back, the revolutionary forces here panic. On return, Maurice Bishop then reevaluated that position and explained this cannot work. So the conclusion from the Revolutionary Military Council, which was the RMC, is that the comrade leader now has petty bourgeois mentality and a whole litany of stuff, including serious obscenities at that meeting, was labeled at Bishop. And then he was placed under house arrest.
I don't think that was a very good idea, because here is the charismatic popular leader of the revolution being placed on the house arrest seemingly because forces in the party are against him. Now, you got a small party, a small revolutionary party. Lenin used to say better, fewer, but better. But then he used to tell all the linkages they had to make with trade union movement and all that in order to make it bigger. But if you just got to think, better fewer but better, and you become isolated, and they are divided now from the people, and you take the man who is the mobilizer, who the people like, who is personable, as they say, got charisma, and you say that he got shared leadership with the guy that I described, I saw in the study group, a very serious, methodical, almost mechanical guy. There's a difference between them ideologically, but one is the people's man, and the other one is not a people's man. And one is seen as saying, although Cord was aware of the problem with the fatigue, but the party said, in majority, Leninist discipline, got to impose Leninist discipline.
The only person in the whole history of Grenada that resigned the position, the only person in the history of the revolution that were able to resign or step across or question the position within the ranks of the party and did not end up in jail was Bernard Coad. Everybody else that questioned the role or tried to run away from the responsibility had to flee or they were in jail. Bernard Coad was then summoned back to be the joint leadership. So in effect, this body, the revolutionary RMC, put on itself as the highest ruling body in the land, and they acquired more power than the leader of the party. Once Maurice Bishop was placed under arrest, the person that was in command of that force, because that person accepted joint leadership, was Bernard Coad. Everything that happened since then was sanctioned by the leader, Bernard Coad. The other person that could have been the joint leader refused to accept it, and that person was under house arrest.
Tension is high. The island is in a state of confusion. We are in the week of October the 19th, 1983, a week that has been dubbed by many commentators as one of the more defining moments in Grenada's history. The events that followed were never envisioned by the populace of this nation, Grenada.
With the week that he was under house arrest, there was this uneasiness. Because under house arrest, because irrespective of what you say, Bishop was a person that was well loved.
When they arrested Morris, you keep hearing, oh, Morris is arrested, he's under house arrest, and you keep hearing, you're not hearing the right story because nobody coming to tell you the right story, but you keep hearing little snippets here and little snippets there, and he was arrested, and Bernard Coad is the one that was against him, and they have the cliques now, and some against, some for Morris, some for Bernard, and
the 16th, the 17th, the school children, the population of Grenada rose up and they took to the street.
The 18th of October, you would have had demonstrations in Grenville, in Sauteurs. The airport is blocked, so no flights are allowed to come in. And that is people expressing their dissatisfaction with what is happening.
The day before, the St. George's started demonstrating. Guave and Sauteurs and so, the schools up there started demonstration before. Then the schools in St. George's heard about it. Then we started demonstrating the other day in our school itself.
During that whole period of house arrest, there is still conversation between both sides. There's a Trinidadian who would have been called to come and have discussions with both sides. And let's see if we could come to some sort of agreement. There were discussions held. The final discussion was supposed to be on October 19th. It never happened, of course. People took matters into their own hands, and they freed Morris from house arrest.
On the morning of his execution, Bishop had in fact been rescued by hundreds of secondary school children from his home, where he had been kept under house arrest for 6 days.
Their last means of expressing their dissatisfaction would have been to forcibly remove him from house arrest.
But there was a groundswell that people say that we want to know what's happening to Maurice Bishop. Why is he under house arrest? We need answers. And they had thousands upon thousands of Grenadians, young people and civilians, gathered in their numbers and marched up to Mount Weldale, where Maurice Bishop was held under house arrest.
It meant vehicles coming from all over Grenada. It's not just St. George. Any possible transportation that you could have found at the time, you literally jumped on the transportation and got yourself down to St. George to free your Prime Minister.
Well, we start jumping and making little beats with different words in it, like saying no bishop, no school, right? And then the principal, that's Mr. Batiste, he could not have controlled us.
So I remember the day now when we were going to free Morris. This thing started in St. Andrew's Parish. They said the school children started it in Greenville. And they said, we're going down to town to free our leader. So they took buses and, I mean, you learn all these things afterwards because of the excitement, you didn't know that. But what I remember now, how it started for me, is that we used to work in a place called the Julia. That's on Young Street. And in a ministry. And we were there and we heard this chanting and drumming and noise, because we did not know at that time that this thing was taking place, but that started since in the market square, where all the umbrellas and things are in front there. So the people gathered there, but at that time they gathered more on the inside because there were no buildings as it is now. It was just an empty space where buses used to park. There was school children and dozens of school children, and then we heard this noise, so we said, what is going on? So everybody, the walkers now ran out in the main road to see, and then you look up the little slope and you saw this group and children and people coming down, and they were chanting and they were singing, and the excitement, and the excitement took over my soul. I didn't know what it was then, but I knew I had to join whatever this thing is. And they were chanting, coming in, they were singing, we want we leader, get we leader, we want we leader. And I say, okay, well, that had to be Morris, because I mean, by that time, I know Morris and the house arrest. So you say, okay. So I said, I had to join that. So I remember I didn't even go back inside walk. Group was passing, I simply eased inside, and away I went. And I started chanting this want we leader, give us we leader thing. The crowd went down Young Street, up Scott Street, and we went on to Upper Church Street. I remember on the route up chanting this, we want a leader, give us a leader. And then the chanting came from, we want a leader, give us a leader, to who the hell is Code? Code. Well, you know, I know young people, they didn't say. So, and then this chant started, and it was so catching. Who the hell is Code? Code, who the hell is Code? And this thing started and it was so exciting, even more exciting than we want to be leader. Because now it was like carnival now. And the drumming, and the chanting, and the clapping, and the who the hell is Code? Code, and because at the time we get to realize now Code is the one responsible. So we heard Code responsible, so they said, well, Code had to go. So who the hell is Code? But we marched from this Young Street I told you about. I took it from Young Street, up all the streets, went up. And I remember when we got to the Berean show, they were kind of tired now. So I remember who sat on the wall, and everybody kind of, they tired. Some sat, some stood up, some they just were milling around in this tired way. But they didn't have far to go still. And I remember specifically me, I said, no, because I have more energy than them because they started further than me. So I said, no, the chanting have to go on. So I remember I started it. I started to shout, who the hell is Code? And they started to Code. And then the thing started off again, and they get a little energy. And I lead in nowhere. I don't know how I'm reaching that. Who the hell is Code? Code, and we going up the road. And we chanted this thing.
People in the streets, like I have in one poem, like a river, you know, just flowing onto Bishop resident to release him from house arrest. This show the love the people had, that they weren't going to accept that the Prime Minister, the beloved Prime Minister, was placed under house arrest.
There was a platoon leader that was called from Carriacou, he was based in Carriacou, to come and be guard once Morris was arrested. So he was brought down from Carriacou. That's actually the same guy that led the execution, the firing squad So he was brought from Carriacou to come and guard the perimeter around Maurice Bishop.
There was a gate separating us from where Maurice and him was. There was this gate. Well, of course, it was his house, so there was and there was this guard hut right there. So suppose that the guard used to be there and thing. And when we got to the gate, of course, the gate was closed and there was this soldier, but 2 or 3 soldiers. One of them, I remember specifically, the people were quarreling with this one. They would say, "Boy, I didn't even know the man." And they said, I heard one person say, "Bogo, you that there, boy? Boy, you that doing that, boy? After Maurice was so nice to you, boy. Maurice, I teach you how to read and write. Maurice, I they said to, of course, they spoke Bogo. And then Bogo was the one that was holding the gate. Because the gate was not really a gate. It was this sort of a thing where you had to lift up and down. Lift it up and when you pass and then lift it back down and put it back down. So I remember we stood up, the crowd stood up in front of this gate, cussing whoever this Bogo person was. And then there was this soldier in the guard hut there. And then some people trying out to pass below the gate to get inside because the Bogo person wouldn't allow them to open the gate. So some ducked under the gate.
They literally shook down the gates and made their way inside and would have physically removed Maurice from house arrest.
It was about 99% of the population up there. They fired shots in the air. Some of the people run.
This building in front here, this pretty nice step, there used to be a nice red. You could still see there a couple little traces of red. That used to be nice. It used to be a beautiful building. So when we came here to get Maurice, and all the soldiers disappeared, because people were coming all here when they started shooting over our heads.
Shooting?
Yeah, they were shooting. Well, I think they were shooting. I don't think they were shooting at us. They were more shooting to scatter us. But they were shooting in the air, I must say. They weren't shooting at us. So soldiers were all there. But when the masses converged on them, they disappeared.
The soldiers were ordered not to fire on the crowd, so they didn't. They actually fired into the air to kind of, suppose, disperse the crowd and get people a little scared so they would go back. That didn't work.
But this boom, 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 and people started to, some people started running. They said, "Oh, run, they can shoot us, they can shoot us. School children, put the school children in front, they can shoot us." And then they put the school children in front. But I remember this one particular girl. The crowd was lifting up the gate, and the Bogo person was putting back down the gate because I said of a tug or one over the gate. And then this girl, I never knew what became of her. She bent down to pass underneath the gate when they lifted it up. And as she was passing, the gate fell back down on her back. I remember that distinctly. And she couldn't walk. And I remember some people lifted her up and brought her back down the hill. I never know what became of her afterwards.
They could not have controlled the whole population, so they just had to leave the gate open. They just pushed down the gate.
When the throng of people started to press against that gate, the Bogo person had no choice. He gave up. So they raised up the gate and people were streaming through. Now this guard hut that I mentioned earlier on the wooden side there, the guard disappeared. When they realized, well, the people, yeah, I don't know where he went. But I remember myself and a friend, we went and so because the people started to run in now to Maurice. A friend and I, we went and stood up in the local guard hut by people passing us by. And in the end, I don't really know what happened to her, but because they were pushing against the hut, because the throng of people were rushing, then they pressed against the little hut. And I remember this little hut rolling down the hill with me inside it. I remember that distinctly. Down a little hill. And as it was going down the hill, it was breaking up, I suppose. I still have my little map on my hand. And then I personally ended up in the bottom of the hill. I remember that, so I had to scramble up the hill now to get back to where the gate was. And then I said, okay, well, by that time people already went in by Maurice. So I just joined the crowd. it was just pandemonium. Everybody was just running towards it. It was just running speed because now we reach here, we know the leader inside there, so it was just people and children just running to get to there. But imagine all this time, people was just streaming come in. Yes, we ran up here and ran up this because it was painted a pretty red. And then we got in inside there. Yes, and I think some of us went that way because Morris was somewhere to the left, because I remember when we went that way, he was not there. So we swing, and Jackie was somewhere inside here because I remember we passed her by in a room somewhere in the back there. We passed her by to get to Morris somewhere here because they lifted Morris from this direction here and then they came back down here. They raised him from inside here. He was in a room to the left there, so they raised him from there, put him over the heads, shoulders, whatever, and came back down here. So by the time we swing come here, he was already going with him in the air. Went down the hill to get to the trucks down there because the trucks down there were waiting for him. That's the last time I saw him. And they had him in the air, in the yard, going with him. And all the trucks and so was down there because they couldn't come up because of the people. Too many people for them to pass. So they had to stay down there.
Yes, he was only in a short pants, half naked in a short pants. And then when he came out of the house, a few people take off the shirt to give him to cover up his body. People start shouting, "We get to leader. That's the leader, we get to leader."
We didn't even know the significance of coming to find Morris because they had Morris in the house arrest. And all you know, the leader inside there, you have to get the leader to free the leader. So you were just in the excitement and you get the leader and back down the road. But on that truck, I remember this big truck. When I was going down the hill, I saw Eunice Whiteman and Vincent Well. They were in the back of this truck. I remember Eunice Whiteman, he didn't have no shirt on. He was just had his trousers on. And the first that had come to mind, no, why is this man without a shirt? Because I don't know whether I didn't have a shirt. I don't know whether I took it out, but I remember he had no shirt on. He was a little fair-skinned man. And then Vincent Well was, two of them was on top of the truck. I think that is the same truck that took Morris. That is the last I saw of Morris. Because the truck went and because the truck took them and go. Then they said, we're going to the fort with Morris. So if you're all interested, somebody on a bullhorn, he said, we're going to the fort. If you're all interested, come on the fort. But we, of course, had to walk now to go because Morris hadn't gone in the van. So I remember us going back down the hill to walk to reach up on the fort. And we got there. When we was halfway through, somebody said, no, they didn't go on the fort, you know. Morris and him in the market square. Morris is going to address the people in the market square. So we head for the market square. Down the road, still chanting. Now the chanting changed now. We find my leader. We find my leader. That was the chant now. It's a different excitement now. Different than one was coming up because now he was found. So chanting going back down. We find my leader. We went right back down where I showed you. The same route.
So all this way down, it's Lucas Street, and the crowds are coming down, holding Bishop, holding Jacqueline, and chanting. Yep. So along this entire route is where they would have been. Now right at the top here, if you go straight down, you're heading towards the market square. So the point was that once you got to this point, what was supposed to happen was head down the hill to the market square, because there was a podium set up and everything. There were other people who would have gathered in the market square waiting. Now I would have been standing right on top here where this car is parked, looking at the tail end of the demonstration. All right. So this is Church Street. This is where Church Street intersects with Lucas Street. And when the crowd got here, they were supposed to go straight down the hill to the market square. That didn't happen. Instead, they turned and headed down what is now Church. This is Church Street, and then eventually onto the fort.
Somebody on a bullhorn. He said, we're going to the fort. If you're all interested, come on the fort. But we, of course, had to walk now to go because Morris hadn't gone in the van. So I remember us going back down the hill to reach up on the fort. And when we got there, when we was halfway through, somebody said, no, they didn't go on the fort, you know. Morris and him in the market square. Morris is going to address the people in the market square. So we head for the market square. Now when I got to the market square, I was so thirsty. I remember the friend named with myself and a girl called Eva. And Eva and I was so thirsty. We said we're going to buy what a little ice thing I call a snow cone. I remember distinctly, we bought this snow cone each. And I started eating that snow cone, and then, I don't know, maybe I blocked out at that time. So I never even knew that he went to the fort. I only know all this thing happened when I recovered, and then I went up by, you see exactly where the lady was calling the signal, the road to the fort. That is where I first saw the little girl coming down with her skirt in her hand and the bloody shirt. So I saw her running down that way, and two men went and take her. So I didn't even know he was up there until I recovered, you could say, for want of a better word. But then we understand that they said when he never got there. They said when he reached there, somebody said, no, let's bring him on the fort. So he passed the other route and go up to the fort, and then people congregated down there. Where's the leader? Where's the leader? He's on the fort. Okay, he's on the fort. So I understood that later on. But I was not part of that like a piece at all. And trust me, I would have been there with bells on, because I would have been marching up to that fort. I mean, the energy and the vibrancy that people had, and the we get with leader kind of joy. That's why so many people were on the fort, because they wanted to go and hear the leader. They didn't wait for him to come back down to the market square, address us up here, because up there, that's where he bring you. And then afterwards, people started to say, why did you bring him up there? Why did they bring him up here? He was supposed to go to the market square.
Some of the question marks remain. Why go to the fort as opposed to the market square? The fort is a military establishment. And even though Morris was commander of the armed forces, he could go to the fort, that's okay. He could go. But civilians was a no-no, all right? And that's where there's some, who made that decision? We're still not sure who made that final decision.
But personally, I think if that Morris had gone to the market square, where it had so many thousands of people, many more people would have died, because they'd have started shooting in the crowd. And so you could say it's almost a good thing that they brought him to the fort. Less people on the fort. Because before I drank the snow cone, I mean, the market square was just filled to capacity with people. So what happened to all these people? Some of them, I have no idea. I can't tell you what transpired. I could just say what people tell me afterwards. But I didn't have that first-hand experience. You know, some of your friends disappeared, as the young man I told you that I saw in the mortuary, followed by a lot of others. It was Blondell Church. It was a sad thing. So afterwards, people started to, I mean, when the sadness hit you, and you heard the announcement, oh, there was a thing, and the following people were killed. That's what made in me. The following people were killed. Among them were, and they started to list those: Morris Bishop, Jacqueline Criff, Fitzroy Bain, something Norman Bain, and they started to name out. That's when the thing hit you. Well, Lord, something terrible happened to me. How come? Oh, it was a terrible time. But as I said, Grenadians are set up people. They're resilient. They were angry. They didn't get all up to now. We're still waiting for answers, because, you know, some people never ever knew what happened to the people. Never. You keep hearing, oh, a chocolate that people take from there, and they bring a chocolate that people along there, and they burn somebody, and Morris down there, and the Americans come. Americans take Morris. So you keep hearing, but never confirm. Up to this blessed day, some people are still waiting for answers. But the main answer is, we know Morris had died, along with all his cabinet people. Dead. Never found. Never was found to be buried. I mean, that is not good enough. It was sad. And then they were blaming those people, the 22 or whatever it is that were up in the jail for all this time. But it's afterwards realized that most of these people were very young boys, 22 and 23. So they could not even think for themselves. I mean, so we were all young. So some of them didn't even, I didn't even know I didn't even realize that I don't even think that they knew exactly what they were just following orders, because that's what they were taught, follow orders. So long afterwards, when you realize when they come from jail, they were still in their 40-something, and some of them were pretty young. So that means you went in young.
In our next episode, our guests who have gone the last mile of the way will retrace that journey, that walk to what was known then as Fort Rupert, where the Grenadian leader Maurice Bishop and cabinet members were assassinated and other Grenadians killed in the early afternoon of Wednesday, October the 19th, 1983. I'm Sherwood McCaskey. This has been The Resilience of the Spice Isle.